Rain fell in steady sheets over Brooksville, the asphalt slick and reflective under the dim streetlights. Inside the Harper estate, Emily Harper sat cross-legged on the floor of Ryan's war room, the glow of the monitors illuminating her determined face. Outside, the wind pressed against the large windows, a reminder of the storm, both literal and figurative, she now faced. Each video she had cued played in sequence, and with every passing minute, the scope of Ryan's preparation became more astonishing. Emily, slender and precise in her movements, brown hair tied loosely at the nape of her neck, skin pale from hours of concentrated study, felt both overwhelmed and invigorated. The first video began with Ryan, his posture relaxed yet authoritative, seated at a large oak desk. His brown eyes, bright with foresight, looked directly at the camera. "Emily," he began, "if you are seeing this, it means the first steps have been taken, but the real work begins now. Knowledge is power. Understanding who we are dealing with and the true value of what we have inherited is essential." Emily paused to take notes. Ryan's meticulous planning was evident. He had analyzed every possible angle, every potential obstacle. He had even broken down the family estate's assets, including the Crestwood property, the surrounding land, and the hidden real estate project that Jake and Megan had deliberately kept from her. The magnitude of what had been concealed struck Emily like a cold wave, but it also ignited a spark of determination. Lily Harper, standing behind her mother, dark eyes wide and serious, leaned over to watch the screen. Her 17-year-old frame, tall and lithe, mirrored Emily's tension. The video shifted focus to Ryan speaking directly to Lily. "And you, my brilliant girl, must learn to observe, to question, and to act cautiously. There will be those who try to manipulate your trust and emotions. You must be ready, always." The tenderness in his tone was unmistakable. He had thought carefully about preparing his daughter, not just for financial battles, but for emotional ones as well. Lily's lips trembled as she processed the words. Emily pressed play on the next video, showing Ryan walking through the estate with a map spread across the dining room table. He pointed out parcels of land, explaining development potential, zoning restrictions, and the projected value of the hidden resort project. His voice was calm, deliberate, and precise. "The value of these assets is more than the sum of what you see on paper. It is strategic, leveraging legal, financial, and environmental factors. Understand this, Emily, and you can navigate the treachery of those who would take advantage of ignorance." A flush of anger rose in Emily's chest as she recalled Jake and Megan's casual assumptions that she would remain unaware. The warmth of betrayal intertwined with the cold thrill of newfound power. Ryan had anticipated everything: their greed, their audacity, and their calculated manipulations. Now, armed with his knowledge, Emily realized she could counter them at every turn. "Mom," Lily whispered, breaking the silence. "He's teaching us to think like him, isn't he? Not just protect what we have, but outmaneuver them." Emily nodded, the corners of her mouth twitching into a small, determined smile. "Yes, he's giving us the tools. And now, it's our turn to act." Over the next few hours, Emily and Lily moved systematically through the war room, cataloging the video lessons and correlating them with the corresponding files. Ryan's notes on strategy and negotiation were more than academic exercises. They were precise instructions tailored for their family dynamics. Emily noted Jake's previous schemes, Megan's manipulative behaviors, and even potential allies or neutral parties who could be swayed in their favor. One particular video caught Emily's attention. In it, Ryan explained the critical importance of timing and perception. "Appear weak when you must, but gather strength unseen. Knowledge without execution is futile, but knowledge with patience is unstoppable." Emily felt a shiver of recognition. She realized that in the past, her grief had made her passive, hesitant, and exposed to manipulation. Now, equipped with Ryan's insights, she could reclaim control. The day waned, and the storm outside intensified. Lightning illuminated the towering bookshelves, casting fleeting shadows across Emily's focused face. Lily sat beside her mother, scrolling through digital maps and spreadsheets Ryan had meticulously prepared. Each parcel of property, each valuation, each potential point of contention was annotated. The hidden resort project, in particular, revealed a layered strategy, a combination of legal, financial, and environmental leverage that could not be ignored. Emily's thoughts drifted briefly to Jake Harper. He had always appeared affable and supportive, a caring younger brother with a ready smile. But the meticulous notes Ryan had left detailed a pattern of exploitation and deception. Small embezzlements, misleading statements, and subtle attempts to manipulate family trust. Emily realized that Jake's charm masked a calculating mind, one that underestimated both her and Lily. The recognition was bitter, but it strengthened her resolve. "Megan's dossier is next," Emily said aloud, though Lily was already turning the digital folder open. Megan Harper, 36, petite with sharp features, blonde hair often tied in a practical bun, and pale green eyes, had long been underestimated for her cunning. Ryan's observations noted her ability to twist situations, to extract concessions through emotional leverage, and to maintain a veneer of innocence while pursuing personal gain. Emily shuddered at the clarity of Ryan's analysis. It left no room for error. Lily, sensing the tension, asked, "Mom, how did he know all this?" Emily pressed her hand to her chest, feeling a wave of awe. "He loved us," she said softly. "He knew that we needed more than protection. We needed understanding, insight, and the courage to act. He trusted us to use it wisely." As the storm raged, the mother-daughter duo constructed their plan. They would first catalog all evidence of past manipulation, then identify key leverage points for legal and strategic advantage. The goal was not merely to protect their inheritance, but to anticipate and counter every move Jake and Megan might make. Emily felt a newfound calm settle over her. Ryan had not abandoned them. He had provided a roadmap to victory. Hours blurred into night as Emily and Lily mapped out contingencies and rehearsed scenarios. Each insight from Ryan's videos added a layer of confidence, negotiation tactics, anticipating objections, and subtle psychological maneuvers. Lily's initial grief gave way to determination, and Emily felt the weight of responsibility transform into empowerment. They were no longer passive participants. They were strategists, armed with knowledge and clarity. By midnight, the storm had abated, leaving a cool, still air in the Harper estate. Emily looked around Ryan's war room, the monitors glowing softly, files meticulously organized, and notes annotated in her handwriting. "This is more than just understanding the assets," she said. "It's understanding people, power, and opportunity. And now, we act." Lily nodded, her eyes alight with resolve. "Together," she said. Emily closed the last video and stood, stretching her tired limbs. She glanced at the large map of the estate projected on the wall. Every parcel, every hidden potential, every calculated move Ryan had prepared, they were ready. She had learned not only the true value of the family assets, but the depth of Ryan's foresight, the love he had embedded in every lesson, and the careful preparation he had left for them. That night, as they turned off the monitors and left the war room, Emily felt a shift within herself. The grief of loss was still present, but it was now tempered by purpose, clarity, and the resolve to honor Ryan's legacy. Knowledge was power, and armed with it, Emily and Lily were prepared to face whatever challenges Jake and Megan might bring. The late afternoon sun struggled through the gray clouds above Brooksville, casting a pale, uneasy light over the Harper estate. The air was thick with anticipation as Emily Harper straightened the documents on the polished mahogany dining table, checking the placement of the laptop and projector one last time. Outside, the garden swayed under the gusts of wind, a reflection of the stormy negotiations about to unfold inside. Emily, a woman of 38, slender with an elegant poise, brown hair cascading over her shoulders in gentle waves, and pale skin highlighted by the soft light, took a deep breath. Her mind raced through Ryan's videos, his notes, and all the evidence they had meticulously compiled over the past days. The strategy was clear. She would face Jake and Megan Harper directly, armed not only with facts, but with a profound understanding of their behavior and weaknesses. The first knock on the door startled Emily, but she quickly masked her tension. Lily, 17, tall and graceful with dark, penetrating eyes that mirrored her mother's intensity, peered from behind the hallway wall. "Mom," she whispered, "are you ready for this?" Emily nodded, her jaw set. "We've prepared for every angle. Now, we act." The door opened to reveal Jake Harper, 34, tall and athletic, with sharp, angular features softened by short-cropped dark brown hair and a neatly trimmed beard. His usual confident smirk was absent. The tension in his shoulders suggested unease. He had always appeared warm and protective, but beneath it lay a calculating mind, one that Emily now recognized thanks to Ryan's careful documentation. Beside him, Megan Harper followed, her petite frame accentuated by a tailored blazer and skirt, blonde hair tied tightly into a bun, green eyes scanning the room with a practiced mixture of curiosity and caution. Behind them, their lawyer, a tall man in his late 40s named Paul Simmons, stood with an air of authority, his salt-and-pepper hair and stern expression giving him a commanding presence. Emily gestured toward the seating arrangement. "Please, sit," she said, her tone calm but carrying an unmistakable weight. "I think it's time we reviewed the full picture." Jake's eyes flickered with subtle surprise as he took in the room, the precise arrangement, and the presence of the digital projector. He was expecting a casual discussion, not a meticulously orchestrated briefing. Megan adjusted her posture, lips pursed, as she sensed that Emily had anticipated every detail. Emily clicked the remote, and the screen illuminated with the comprehensive map of the Harper estate. Parcel boundaries, development zones, and hidden assets that had been deliberately concealed from her were displayed in stark clarity. The hidden resort project appeared in full detail, including environmental impact assessments, financial projections, and timelines Ryan had painstakingly documented. Jake leaned forward, a flicker of apprehension crossing his usually confident expression. How did you get all this?" he asked, trying to mask his concern. Emily's lips curved in a faint, knowing smile. "Ryan left it for us?" she said softly, her voice steady. "He knew what might happen, and he made sure we wouldn't be caught off guard." Megan's green eyes narrowed, calculating as she studied Emily. "We thought we could negotiate in confidence. You weren't supposed to know the full extent," Megan said, her voice strained but controlled. Emily pressed another button, bringing up a series of charts and graphs detailing financial discrepancies, suspicious transactions, and evidence of Jake and Megan's prior manipulations of family assets. She watched their reactions closely. Jake's jaw tightened, and Megan's lips formed a thin line. Paul Simmons shifted slightly, realizing the gravity of what he was witnessing. Emily felt the subtle power of the room shifting in her favor. For the first time, Jake and Megan Harper realized Emily was no longer the grieving widow they had underestimated. She was composed, informed, and precise. Every step they had taken to manipulate her and Lily had been anticipated and countered by Ryan's foresight, and now by her deliberate planning. Emily's pulse remained steady, though beneath her calm exterior, a storm of emotion swirled. Grief for Ryan, determination to protect Lily, and a quiet, simmering satisfaction at witnessing the moment their arrogance faltered. "Let's be clear," Emily continued, her voice firm, eyes locked on Jake. "I know what you've done, what you've tried to hide, and what you intended to take, and I'm not here to be intimidated." She clicked again, bringing up a video compilation Ryan had prepared, showing interactions, correspondence, and financial records that subtly highlighted patterns of deceit. Megan shifted uncomfortably, realizing the depth of Emily's knowledge. Lily, standing just behind her mother, observed quietly, absorbing the strength emanating from Emily. Her dark eyes, now alight with newfound confidence, mirrored the same determination Emily had felt as she first watched Ryan's videos. She realized that her father's foresight had not only prepared them for financial challenges, but had trained them to confront deception with strategy and courage. Paul Simmons finally spoke, his voice measured. "Ms. Harper, the information presented is substantial. I advise my clients to consider their position carefully." Jake's hand brushed through his dark hair, a habitual gesture that betrayed his inner tension. He had always been self-assured, relying on charm and persuasion to navigate conflicts, but now, facing a mother and daughter united by knowledge and preparation, his usual tactics seemed insufficient. Megan, sensing her husband's vulnerability, placed a reassuring hand on his arm, yet even she could not hide the unease in her posture. Emily leaned forward slightly, her fingers resting on the table. "This estate, these assets, they are not up for manipulation. Ryan's preparations were not just about numbers or maps. They were about protecting what he loved. Family, integrity, and our future. You both need to understand that." Jake's gaze faltered, meeting Emily's steady brown eyes. He swallowed hard, the weight of exposure pressing on him. Megan's green eyes darted to her husband, then back to Emily, realizing that their previous assumptions had been shattered. The conversation continued, Emily systematically presenting every piece of information Ryan had left. Charts, videos, and financial records revealed patterns that could not be disputed. Each revelation chipped away at Jake and Megan's confidence. Emily's calm demeanor contrasted sharply with the anxiety growing in their expressions. The mother-daughter duo exuded an authority that was impossible to ignore. After nearly 2 hours, the room fell into a tense silence. Emily's final words resonated. "We are not here to destroy you, but to protect what is rightfully ours. We will negotiate, but it will be on our terms, fully informed and without deception." Jake's shoulders slumped slightly, Megan's eyes softened, and even Paul Simmons nodded, recognizing the shift in power. Emily rose, straightening her blazer, her presence commanding yet composed. Lily mirrored her mother's stance, the young woman's newfound confidence evident. Outside, the wind had died down, leaving a quiet, expectant calm over the estate. Emily knew this confrontation had changed the dynamic irreversibly. They had been underestimated, and now they knew they faced not vulnerability, but formidable opposition. As Jake, Megan, and Paul gathered their documents to leave, Emily felt a quiet triumph. The negotiations had begun, but the first decisive psychological advantage was hers. Ryan's preparation had empowered her and Lily to face deceit with clarity, strategy, and confidence. The storm outside had passed, leaving a clean slate, much like the new phase of their lives, where vigilance, knowledge, and unity would define every action. A heavy drizzle pattered against the Harper estate windows, the gray sky reflecting the tension that clung to the interior. The scent of wet earth and damp leaves seeped faintly through the slightly ajar door, grounding Emily Harper in the reality of the moment. She straightened the papers on the dining table once more, her eyes scanning the digital presentation for the 100th time, ensuring every detail of Ryan's evidence was perfectly displayed. Emily, slender and poised, her long chestnut hair falling in soft waves around her shoulders, eyes bright and unwavering, felt her pulse quicken, not from fear but anticipation. Today's meeting was no ordinary negotiation. It was the culmination of everything Ryan had prepared. Her daughter, Lily, 17, tall and lithe with dark, observant eyes that mirrored Emily's intensity, sat beside her, notebook in hand, silently recording every planned step. The two women shared a glance, a quiet understanding passing between them. Today, they would confront deceit head-on. The first to arrive was Marcus Delaney, the project director of the new real estate development. Marcus was 42, broad-shouldered, with a ruggedly handsome face marred by a faint scar above his left brow, evidence of a construction accident years prior. His dark eyes, always alert, held a mix of pragmatism and curiosity. Known in the industry for his keen eye for strategy and unwavering decisiveness, Marcus had been brought in by Emily's lawyer to provide professional insight and credibility during the confrontation. He carried himself with measured confidence, his tailored navy suit highlighting a commanding presence without arrogance. Shortly after, Paul Simmons, the Harper family lawyer, entered, his salt and pepper hair perfectly combed, tall and imposing, with a voice that demanded attention. He nodded curtly at Marcus, and together, they moved to the head of the table where the projector's glow illuminated Ryan's meticulously compiled documents. The air was electric, charged with unspoken tension, as Emily heard the soft click of the front door behind them. Jake Harper, 34, with his angular features sharpened by stress, and Megan Harper, petite with blonde hair pulled tightly into a bun, green eyes scanning the room for any signs of weakness, entered. Both seemed to expect an ordinary meeting. What they faced instead was calculated preparation. Emily stood at the head of the table, her posture flawless, voice calm but resonant. "Thank you all for coming," she began, gesturing toward the projected map of the Harper estate. The map displayed boundaries, hidden financial records, and Ryan's documentation of their previously concealed resort project. Today, we discuss what has always been hidden, and I suggest we do so with honesty. Jake's smirk faltered, replaced by a tightening of his jaw. He had always relied on charm and intimidation, but Emily's calm authority unnerved him. Megan, sensing the shift, perched on the edge of her seat, hands clasped tightly, her green eyes darting between Emily and Marcus, searching for an ally in the room. Emily clicked a button, bringing up financial charts and video evidence compiled by Ryan over the years. Transactions, suspicious withdrawals, and email correspondences that had been hidden from her were displayed for all to see. "These records," Emily explained, her voice unwavering, "show a consistent pattern of manipulation and deception. You attempted to control assets that were not yours to take, and in doing so, underestimated the intelligence and foresight of this family." Marcus Delaney leaned in, pointing to a section of the projection. "From a project management perspective, the implications of their actions are significant," he explained. His voice was steady, yet sharp with authority. "Emily, you now have the leverage to correct past mismanagement and protect your interests. The data here shows your father's foresight was not exaggerated." Lily, sitting quietly beside her mother, felt her admiration for Emily deepen. She observed the way her mother's eyes never wavered, the calm intensity in her gestures, and the meticulous organization of her thoughts. She realized that the mother she had always known as nurturing and patient also possessed an intellect and courage capable of dismantling deception. A sense of pride surged through Lily. She was witnessing not only justice, but the strength and strategy that had always been there, waiting to be activated. Emily continued, her gaze shifting to Jake and Megan. "You have a choice," she said, deliberately slow and precise. "You can acknowledge these facts, accept the consequences, and proceed with honesty, or you can resist and face the legal ramifications Ryan meticulously prepared." Her words hung heavy in the air, carrying both authority and inevitability. Jake's hands tightened into fists under the table. The confident, calculating exterior he relied upon was crumbling under the weight of undeniable proof. Megan's breath hitched slightly. For the first time, she seemed uncertain, vulnerable. Paul Simmons added, "Given the evidence presented and the potential legal exposure, I recommend negotiating terms that respect Ms. Harper's rights." Emily pressed another button, cycling through Ryan's video messages. Each segment highlighted strategic advice, financial insights, and warnings about the Harper family's internal manipulations. The videos, carefully archived over months, demonstrated Ryan's meticulous foresight. Jake and Megan leaned forward, unable to look away, confronted with the undeniable intelligence and preparation of a man they thought they could outmaneuver. "You've underestimated me for too long," Emily said, her voice carrying an edge that resonated with authority. "You thought a grieving widow would be easy to manipulate. You assumed I would not see through the layers of deceit. But Ryan prepared for every contingency, and I am now carrying forward that plan. You will not succeed in exploiting this family again." Lily sat upright, absorbing her mother's words. She felt an almost tangible shift in the room as Jake's confident posture faltered. Megan's green eyes softened, no longer filled with the assured cunning they had carried into the room. Marcus Delaney nodded subtly, acknowledging the psychological shift. The room had moved decisively in Emily's favor. Emily leaned slightly, pointing to the financial projections and asset maps. "You are aware now of the true scope of this estate, the hidden developments, and the financial realities you attempted to conceal. You must step back, acknowledge these facts, and allow Lily and me to manage what is rightfully ours." The tone was firm, unyielding, yet without personal malice, only justice and resolve. Jake opened his mouth, hesitated, then exhaled sharply. "Emily, I underestimated the preparation, and perhaps the judgment. Megan's hand touched his arm, a quiet plea for composure. "We see now," she said quietly, "the gravity of the situation." Emily observed the subtle signs of genuine realization, though caution still tinged her perception. Paul Simmons intervened, his voice calm yet commanding. "I suggest we formalize a transfer of control immediately. Continuing resistance could result in legal consequences that are difficult to contest." Emily nodded, acknowledging the practicality of his counsel. She could sense the subtle relief in Lily's posture, the quiet acknowledgement that their father's plan had provided them with not just evidence, but the confidence to act decisively. As the meeting drew to a close, Jake and Megan finally acknowledged Emily's authority. They signed preliminary agreements under Paul Simmons's supervision, relinquishing control and formally recognizing her and Lily's management of the estate and its associated projects. The sense of victory was tempered by Emily's enduring grief for Ryan, yet it was underlined by pride in carrying forward his legacy. The rain outside had slowed to a light drizzle, the clouds parting slightly to reveal streaks of sunlight. Emily exhaled, feeling the weight of tension release from her shoulders. She turned to Lily, who looked at her with wide, admiring eyes. "We did it," Lily whispered, her voice a mixture of relief and awe. Emily reached out, clasping her daughter's hand, a silent promise passing between them. Unity, vigilance, and strength would define their future. Emily knew this confrontation marked not just a victory in negotiation, but the start of a new chapter, one in which her intellect, preparation, and resolve would ensure that the Harper estate and their family legacy remained protected. Ryan's foresight had prepared them, but it was their own courage and strategic action that secured their triumph. A crisp autumn morning settled over the Harper estate, the sun casting golden streaks through the tall oaks surrounding the property. The air carried the earthy scent of fallen leaves and dew-soaked grass. Emily Harper stood on the porch, the breeze lifting strands of her chestnut hair around her determined face. Today marked the first morning since the confrontation with Jake and Megan that she felt a sense of unhurried possibility, a freedom she hadn't experienced in years. The house was quiet, except for the soft rustle of pages from Ryan's carefully cataloged journals. Emily, slender yet resilient, with warm brown eyes reflecting both sorrow and strength, had learned to navigate grief alongside resolve. She moved with quiet precision, her long fingers brushing against the antique railing as she descended the steps to the driveway, where Lily was already waiting, notebook in hand. Lily's tall, athletic frame was perfectly balanced by her observant green eyes, alert yet tender, absorbing every nuance of the world around her. "Morning, Mom," Lily said softly, her voice carrying a mixture of excitement and apprehension. She had always admired her mother's intellect, but recent events had deepened her respect into awe. Emily smiled, clasping her daughter's hand. "Morning, sweetheart. Ready to make today count?" Their first stop was the art studio Ryan had designed, a spacious, sunlit room filled with unfinished canvases, scattered brushes, and the faint fragrance of oil paints. It had been months since Emily had picked up a brush, her grief a heavier weight than any paint could lift. Today, however, she approached the easel with a newfound resolve. She selected a blank canvas Ryan had commissioned before his untimely passing, a gift of possibility he had left for her. The frame gleamed in the sunlight, a silent promise of creativity and healing. The studio door creaked open again, this time admitting Miss Jackson, Ryan's longtime assistant and confidant. Miss Jackson was a woman in her late 40s, tall and elegant, with silver-streaked hair tied neatly into a bun and piercing blue eyes that seemed to see through pretense. Her presence radiated calm authority, a grounding force in the Harper household. "Emily," she said gently, "I thought you might need guidance today. Ryan made sure you had everything to continue the legacy he believed in?" Emily nodded, taking a deep breath. "Thank you, Miss Jackson. I think I'm ready." Her fingers hovered over the brushes, a moment of hesitation before the first stroke brought color to the canvas. She began with the outline of the estate, each detail painstakingly accurate, recalling every corner Ryan had loved and preserved. Lily, sitting nearby, observed silently, occasionally offering subtle feedback. "Maybe the conservatory here, like Dad described," she suggested, pointing to a section near the rear garden. As Emily painted, her mind replayed Ryan's videos. Each message contained wisdom, insight into human behavior, and advice for safeguarding the estate. His instructions for evaluating financial documents, understanding property development potential, and managing deceptive relatives had all been crucial in the previous confrontation. Now, they served as a roadmap for reclaiming her identity beyond grief. The afternoon sun shifted across the studio floor, highlighting the subtle details Emily added. Flowers in the garden, sunlight through the windows, and the quiet presence of Lily. Beneath the visible layers, she included metaphorical elements: Ryan's influence, their shared memories, and the resilience she now felt in her own spirit. She painted slowly, each brushstroke a deliberate act of remembrance and empowerment. Later, Miss Jackson guided Emily and Lily to the conservatory, where orchids Ryan had meticulously tended thrived under glass panes. The flowers were delicate yet resilient, much like the legacy Ryan had built. Emily knelt beside a cluster of rare blue orchids, her fingers brushing the petals with reverence. "He thought of everything," she whispered. "Even this as a source of inspiration and patience." Lily crouched beside her, noting the subtle variations in hue and petal formation. "It's like he's still teaching us," she said softly, awe and longing mixed in her voice. The day passed in a rhythm of creation and reflection. Emily and Lily alternated between painting, organizing Ryan's archives, and cataloging the orchid collection. Each activity, though simple, reinforced their connection to him and to each other. Emily noticed subtle changes within herself. Her grief no longer dominated, replaced by a quiet determination to preserve and enhance the life Ryan had envisioned for them. As evening approached, Emily retired to the study, a room lined with floor-to-ceiling bookshelves filled with Ryan's notes, financial records, and personal writings. The room carried the scent of polished wood and ink, a comforting reminder of the meticulous man he had been. She opened one of the binders he had left and began reviewing his notes on strategic estate management, ensuring every decision she made aligned with his foresight. Lily leaned against the doorway, watching her mother with admiration and an eagerness to learn. "Mom, do you think we'll ever feel like we're done?" Lily asked, her voice hesitant but curious. Emily paused, brushing a stray hair from her face, considering the question carefully. "No, sweetheart. Life isn't about finishing. It's about continuing, building upon what we've inherited, and making choices that honor the past while shaping our future. That's what Ryan wanted for us, and that's what we're doing." They spent the night watching Ryan's daily messages together, the flickering light of the laptop casting gentle shadows across their faces. Each video, carefully scripted before his passing, contained reminders of courage, ethics, and love. Emily's heart swelled as she realized the depth of his foresight. He had not just prepared them for legal battles, but for life itself, ensuring they were capable, confident, and inspired. By the end of the evening, Emily returned to the art studio one last time, placing the finishing touches on her canvas. The painting now reflected not just the physical estate, but a living tapestry of memory, love, and resilience. It was a visual manifestation of their journey, Emily and Lily at the forefront, Ryan's presence subtly woven into every corner, the estate's essence captured in light and shadow, color and form. Sitting back, Emily felt a profound sense of accomplishment. This was more than reclaiming property. It was reclaiming herself. She understood, in a deep and visceral way, that the act of creation, whether in painting, caring for the orchids, or preserving Ryan's legacy, was her path forward. Lily approached, placing a hand on her mother's shoulder. "I think Dad would be proud," she whispered, a mix of relief and joy in her voice. Emily nodded, feeling the truth of it resonate deeply. The Harper estate, with its gardens, conservatory, and art studio, had become a sanctuary, a place where grief and hope coexisted. Emily's identity as a widow, mother, and now as a guardian of legacy was solidifying. She realized that Ryan's final gift was not material, but the opportunity to grow, to reclaim life with intention and courage. That night, as the house settled into quiet, Emily and Lily shared a silent promise: to continue honoring Ryan's guidance, to embrace creativity, and to protect the estate and each other. The first steps of recovery had begun, and with them, the understanding that life, despite its losses, offered endless opportunities to rebuild, to love, and to create anew. The canvas on the easel was not merely art, it was a testament to endurance, foresight, and the profound power of family, memory, and self-discovery. A chill wind swept through the Harper estate early in the morning, rustling the amber leaves and hinting at the impending arrival of winter. Emily Harper lingered on the porch, sipping her coffee, the scent of damp earth and fallen leaves grounding her in the present. The estate had settled into a rhythm, the quiet punctuated only by Lily tending the orchids and the occasional murmur of distant wildlife. Yet a flicker of unease had taken root in Emily's mind, a sense that the past was not entirely dormant. The sharp chime of the front doorbell startled her. She set the cup down, tension knotting her shoulders. Miss Jackson, who had been sorting paperwork in the study, appeared beside her. "Who could that be?" Emily murmured, stepping carefully toward the entrance. Opening the door, she was met with a sight that stirred conflicting emotions. Marcus Delaney, one of the Harper brothers who had sought to usurp the estate, stood hesitantly on the threshold. Marcus was a man in his late 40s, now gaunt and frail, the arrogance that had defined his youth replaced by a solemn gravity. His sharp features were softened by the pallor of illness. His dark hair streaked with silver, and a shadow of stubble traced his jawline. There was a vulnerability in his posture, a tentative humility in the tilt of his head, that made Emily instinctively wary, but curious. "Emily," he said quietly, his voice roughened by months of stress and treatment. "Thank you for seeing me. I need to speak with you." Emily regarded him carefully, noting the subtle tremor in his hands and the way his eyes, once calculating, now seemed haunted. "Come in," she said finally, stepping aside. "We'll talk in the sunroom." As they moved through the hallway, Marcus's eyes lingered on familiar spaces, his expression a mixture of nostalgia and regret. He paused at the photographs lining the walls, his gaze catching on one of him, Ryan, and Emily as children under a sprawling oak tree. "I found this," he murmured, producing a small, worn packet from his coat pocket. Inside were faded photographs and a tiny potted orchid, the earliest one Ryan had ever nurtured. The gesture was modest, yet laden with unspoken acknowledgement of shared history. Emily took the packet, weighing it in her hands. "Why now?" she asked softly, her voice even but edged with suspicion. Marcus inhaled deeply, the sound shivering through him. "I've had time to reflect. I have a condition, cancer. Stage 4, he admitted, his eyes briefly glancing at the floor. "I don't expect forgiveness. I just needed to acknowledge what I did, and the ways I harmed you and Lily. I want to try to make amends before it's too late." The weight of his confession hung in the air. Emily studied his face, searching for deceit and finding only fatigue, fear, and an earnestness that unsettled her. She thought of Ryan's meticulous preparations, his insistence that she remain vigilant, and yet she felt a reluctant curiosity stir within her. Perhaps this was a lesson in the complexity of human nature. Beyond black and white, there was room for remorse, growth, and reconciliation. "Let me show you something first," Emily said, leading him toward the conservatory. Sunlight filtered through the glass panes, illuminating the rare orchids Ryan had tended, the colors vibrant against the crisp autumn backdrop. Marcus's eyes softened as he took in the beauty, his hand grazing the leaves reverently. I remember helping Ryan with these when we were kids," he murmured, his voice tinged with both nostalgia and sorrow. "He always had a way of making life purposeful." Emily nodded, observing him carefully. "Purposeful, yes, and yet fragile. These orchids are like life. They require patience, attention, and care, just as you need to care for your actions and the consequences they leave behind. Marcus lowered his gaze, the shame evident, yet he did not turn away. Lily appeared at the conservatory doorway, her tall frame silhouetted by the waning sunlight. Her eyes, alert and green, studied Marcus with guarded curiosity. "Hi," she said quietly, her tone cautious but polite. I know who you are." Marcus's face softened further, and he nodded, stepping toward her with measured care. "Yes, I know I have no right to ask anything of you, but I hope maybe we can start by sharing memories. You and your father, your mother, all the things I was blind to for too long." Lily's expression was unreadable, but she allowed him a tentative space among the orchids. Emily watched as Marcus carefully handled a rare blue orchid, recalling a time when Ryan had asked them all to tend it together. The symbolism was not lost on her. "You are learning that reflection alone isn't enough," she said gently. "Acknowledgement is a start, but actions define redemption. You can't undo the past, but you can attempt to make amends, to approach others with humility and sincerity." Marcus's hands tightened briefly around the orchid, then relaxed, the gesture seeming almost symbolic of a willingness to bear the weight of his misdeeds with grace. The conversation shifted toward shared memories, and slowly, stories that had been buried under years of resentment and misunderstanding surfaced. Marcus recounted moments of fear and inadequacy that had shaped his behavior, including pressures from their parents and the toxic competitiveness with Ryan. His eyes reflected the struggles of a man who had lived too long in denial, grappling with guilt that had festered silently. Emily felt a cautious empathy begin to form, tempered by her protective instincts for Lily and the estate. She guided Marcus to reflect on his actions rather than merely express sorrow. "You've admitted fault. That's not enough. You must consider the implications of your choices and how to act differently moving forward. Teaching by example may be the only meaningful path left to you." Marcus nodded solemnly, a silent pledge in his eyes. Hours passed as they walked the conservatory and surrounding gardens. Emily explained the delicate care required for the orchids, the balance of sunlight, water, and attention, drawing a parallel to life and moral responsibility. Marcus absorbed each lesson with an intensity that surprised Emily. His posture, once rigid and defensive, gradually softened as he listened, learned, and acknowledged. By late afternoon, a fragile understanding had formed. Marcus had begun to see that redemption was not about absolution from others, but the willingness to transform one's own approach to life, guided by reflection and tangible actions. Lily, observing quietly, felt a subtle shift in her perception of her uncle, a mixture of cautious hope and still wary curiosity. Emily allowed herself a small sense of relief, knowing that while full forgiveness was not immediate, the first steps toward reconciliation had begun. As Marcus prepared to leave, he handed Emily the orchid he had been holding. "A token," he said, voice trembling, "that I hope symbolizes my intention, however imperfect, to live differently." Emily accepted it, a small smile of acknowledgement crossing her face. "Intentions matter, but now it is your responsibility to act upon them." He nodded, a hint of peace mingled with lingering sorrow in his expression. That evening, as the autumn sun dipped below the horizon, Emily stood in the conservatory, observing the blue orchid, its petals glowing softly in the fading light. She felt a complex mixture of emotions: lingering grief, cautious hope, and the quiet satisfaction of seeing the first signs of transformation in someone who had once been her adversary. Lily joined her, and together they reflected on the day's events. "Mom?" Lily whispered, Maybe people can change, even if it takes a long time. Emily wrapped an arm around her daughter, her heart swelling with gratitude for the lessons of patience, compassion, and measured forgiveness. Yes, sweetheart, change is possible, but it takes courage and accountability. Redemption is a journey, not a destination. For Emily, the day reaffirmed a profound truth, that the legacy left by Ryan was not merely financial or material, but an enduring lesson in character, resilience, and moral clarity. Marcus's visit, though fraught with tension, had become a conduit for healing, bridging the gap between past misdeeds and present opportunities for reconciliation. As night fell over the Harper estate, the house seemed quieter, steadier, as if it too had sensed the tentative restoration of trust and goodwill. The chapter closed with Emily reflecting on the blue orchid in her hands, a living emblem of grace and the transformative power of reflection, accountability, and empathy, a symbol of the fragile yet enduring possibilities that life still offered. The morning fog clung to the Harper estate, veiling the gardens and orchards in a delicate, almost ethereal shroud. Emily Harper walked along the winding path to the conservatory, her boots crunching softly against frost-kissed leaves. The crisp autumn air carried a sense of renewal, a subtle promise that the past, with all its turbulence, could transform into a foundation for the future. The estate was now fully under her stewardship, and the responsibility felt both exhilarating and heavy. Emily, in her mid-40s, tall and slender with ash-brown hair pulled back into a practical bun, adjusted her coat against the chill. Her green eyes, sharp and contemplative, reflected both resolve and the quiet vulnerability left by years of grief. Beside her, Lily, now 17, moved with a confident grace she had cultivated through Ryan's careful guidance and her mother's encouragement. Lily's long chestnut hair framed a freckled face, and her striking blue eyes mirrored Emily's intensity, signaling a young woman ready to take ownership of her future. Their first task that morning was a review of the Harper estate's conservation plans. Emily had consulted with environmental specialists to implement sustainable practices that would preserve the rare orchids, the ancient trees, and the delicate ecosystem of the property. Beyond aesthetics, she saw the importance of protecting these natural treasures as part of the broader legacy Ryan had entrusted to her. Every decision she made now felt purposeful, an extension of the lessons imbued in her by her late brother. A crisp knock at the door interrupted her thoughts. Emily glanced up to see Mr. Aldridge, the property manager she had hired after Ryan's death. Tall and robust, with graying hair and a calm demeanor, he had a pragmatic yet empathetic presence that immediately eased tension. His sharp eyes, honed from decades of overseeing large estates, missed nothing. "Morning, Miss Harper," he greeted, handing her a folder. "The soil tests and irrigation assessments are complete. You might want to review them before we begin the next phase of planting." Emily nodded, taking the folder. The weight of responsibility was tangible, yet invigorating. She spent the morning walking through the orchards with Lily, pointing out the subtle indicators of soil health, sun exposure, and water distribution. "Notice how each section has its own rhythm," she explained, tracing her gloved hand over the rough bark of an old apple tree. "Understanding this balance is like understanding life, Lily. You can't force growth. You can only nurture it carefully." Lily absorbed her mother's words, a contemplative expression softening her young face. "I think I understand, Mom. It's about patience and respect," she said, her voice quiet but firm. Emily felt a spark of pride. Her daughter was learning more than horticulture. She was learning stewardship, responsibility, and insight. Later that day, Emily convened a meeting in the estate's study with several key advisors. The room, bathed in late afternoon sunlight, smelled faintly of old books and polished wood, a reminder of the intellectual grounding Ryan had provided her. She reviewed the long-term strategy for the property, combining sustainable development with environmental conservation. Architects, lawyers, and financial consultants presented their projections, and Emily listened intently, her sharp mind analyzing every figure and proposal. One of the advisors, Claire Donnelly, a landscape architect with a keen eye for ecological integration, stood out. Claire was petite, with chestnut hair cascading in waves, warm brown eyes, and a voice that conveyed authority tempered with empathy. She had been recommended by Ryan years prior for her innovative approaches. "Emily," Claire said, pointing to a topographical map of the property, "if we maintain these natural corridors and minimize construction footprint, we can increase both biodiversity and property value sustainably. The orchids, particularly, will thrive under these conditions." Emily's mind raced with possibilities. She felt Ryan's influence guiding her. He had always believed in foresight, preparation, and the power of knowledge. "Excellent," she said, tapping the map decisively. "Let's move forward with this plan. I want the estate to flourish in every sense, financially, environmentally, and as a legacy for Lily and future generations." By evening, Emily and Lily returned to the conservatory, the golden light spilling over the delicate petals of the orchids. The two of them shared a quiet moment, the air filled with the subtle fragrance of blooms and the faint sound of distant crows calling. Emily took a deep breath, feeling a profound sense of accomplishment. For the first time since Ryan's death, she felt a measure of peace, not closure, but a forward momentum built on purpose, knowledge, and love. Lily, her youthful face illuminated by the setting sun, turned to her mother. "Mom, do you think Dad would be proud of how far we've come?" Her voice carried hope, tinged with longing. Emily smiled, brushing a loose strand of hair from Lily's face. "Yes, sweetheart. He would be proud, not just of the estate, but of us. You've learned to stand on your own, and that is the greatest legacy anyone could leave behind." That night, Emily sat in her study, watching as the estate settled into quietude. She reflected on the true inheritance Ryan had left. Not only the tangible assets or even the security of wealth, but the freedom to explore, to grow, and to embrace her identity fully. She picked up a video recorder Ryan had set aside, one he had intended for her to watch only after she had reclaimed the estate and begun to establish her own path. His voice, calm and reassuring, echoed through the room. "Emily, the house, the land, the orchids, they are tools. The real inheritance is the ability to live your life fully, without fear or restraint. Trust yourself, trust Lily, and trust the values we have shared." Emily pressed pause, absorbing the depth of his guidance. She thought of Lily, strong and poised, standing at the threshold of adulthood, and herself, rediscovering passions long dormant. Ryan had understood that material wealth could never be the measure of a life well lived. It was the cultivation of character, love, and purpose that defined true success. As midnight approached, Emily walked to the great room, the painting of the Harper estate that Ryan had commissioned, glimmering under the soft glow of the chandelier. She touched the canvas lightly, feeling the layers of past, present, and future interwoven. Each stroke, each color choice, was a silent message from her brother, one of hope, foresight, and enduring love. In the quiet of her estate, Emily realized the essence of her new beginning, a life unbound by fear, directed by wisdom, and nourished by the lessons of those she loved. For the first time, she embraced the future fully, not as a widow burdened by past loss, but as a steward of legacy, a mother guiding the next generation, and a woman reclaiming her passions and her freedom. The Harper estate, once shadowed by conflict, now thrived under Emily's vision. The orchids, trees, and orchards flourished, a testament to careful cultivation and unwavering commitment. And as the first frost glistened across the lawns in the early hours of dawn, Emily felt a profound connection to Ryan, to Lily, and to the life they were building together. Freedom, responsibility, and self-discovery. These were the true treasures, more enduring than any fortune or title, and Emily knew with clarity that this was the inheritance she had been granted and the legacy she would honor. A gentle mist blanketed the Harper estate in the early morning, softening the lines of the conservatory and the orchard alike. Emily Harper stood by the window, the rising sun casting a golden hue across the landscape. The estate, once a symbol of conflict and uncertainty, now radiated stability and promise. Today, she would put the final touches on the grand painting that Ryan had inspired her to create, a culmination of years of learning, strategy, and rediscovery. Emily, mid-40s, with ash-brown hair pulled back in a practical bun and slender, graceful posture, felt a sense of quiet determination. Her green eyes, usually so reflective of contemplation and emotion, now glimmered with purpose. She had walked through grief, betrayal, and uncertainty, and emerged stronger. Her mind, sharp as ever, reviewed every decision she had made to protect the estate, preserve the environment, and empower Lily. The painting she was about to complete would not only depict the tangible aspects of the Harper legacy, but also the intangible threads of wisdom, resilience, and love. Lily, 17, appeared at the studio doorway. Her long chestnut hair caught the morning light, framing her freckled face, and her blue eyes held both curiosity and pride. She had grown into a confident, thoughtful young woman, shaped by her mother's guidance and the unseen hand of Ryan's posthumous mentorship. "Mom," she said softly, "are you ready to finish it?" Emily smiled, a mix of maternal pride and anticipation washing over her. "Yes, Lily, this is the last piece." The painting covered the main wall of the great room, a monumental canvas combining multiple temporal layers of the Harper estate. In the background, the house, meticulously rendered with photographic accuracy, reflected the present reality. Beneath it, translucent layers depicted the ancestral homestead, the forgotten orchards, and the landscapes that had shaped the family's history. In the foreground, Lily and Emily's figures stood intertwined, shadows of resilience and connection. Hidden subtly behind them, a smaller figure of Ryan extended a hand with a blue orchid, a silent testament to guidance and enduring love. As Emily applied the final brushstrokes, she reflected on the lessons learned over the past year. Every challenge, from uncovering Jake and Megan's deceit to mastering property strategy and sustainable development, had been a step in reclaiming her agency and empowering Lily. The estate was more than land and structures. It was a living archive of values, memories, and aspirations. Every orchid, every tree, every ray of sunlight captured in the painting represented a choice, a lesson, and a commitment to stewardship. Mr. Aldridge, the estate manager, appeared quietly behind the studio door. His tall, broad-shouldered frame was framed by the morning light, and his graying hair hinted at decades of experience. "Emily," he said, voice calm yet commanding, "the grounds are ready for the final planting phase. The irrigation system functions perfectly, and the orchids are thriving. It seems your vision is fully realized." Emily nodded, grateful for his steadfast support and expertise. Thank you, Mr. Aldridge. It's been a journey, she replied, her voice thick with emotion. Lily stepped closer, observing the painting with reverence. It's like the past, present, and future are all in one place. And you're here, Mom, holding it together. Emily reached for Lily's hand, squeezing it gently. We're holding it together, Lily. Together we honor Ryan, ourselves, and the legacy we carry forward. A soft rustle at the window drew their attention. Claire Donnelly, the landscape architect who had guided Emily through the estate's ecological planning, stood on the veranda. Petite and graceful, with chestnut hair cascading in waves and warm brown eyes that radiated intelligence and empathy, Claire smiled. The property is thriving beyond expectations, she said, stepping inside. The integration of the orchards and conservation areas is exemplary. It will inspire anyone who walks through these grounds. Emily felt a deep sense of gratitude. This collaborative effort had turned a family estate into a sustainable, thriving sanctuary. Later in the day, Emily reviewed Ryan's last recorded messages, stored carefully on the estate's secure system. His calm, deliberate voice filled the room. Emily, if you are seeing this, you have reached the point I always hoped you would. The house, the land, the orchids, these were never the true inheritance. It was always your ability to reclaim yourself, to act with wisdom, and to nurture those you love. The estate is complete in your hands, but your journey is only beginning. Emily pressed pause, feeling the profound weight and freedom of his words. Ryan had given her more than guidance. He had given her empowerment and trust in her own judgment. As evening descended, Emily and Lily walked through the conservatory, admiring the vibrant orchids and the soft golden light filtering through the glass. Marcus, the repentant brother who had sought forgiveness, appeared quietly at the doorway. His tall, lean frame, once imposing in arrogance, now carried the weight of humility and illness. His dark hair was streaked with gray, and the lines around his eyes deepened with the burden of reflection. Emily, he said, voice gentle. Thank you for showing me grace. I never realized the depth of what I had lost until now. Emily nodded, offering a small, reassuring smile. It's never too late, Marcus. The estate teaches us that every choice matters and every action can heal or harm. You chose to begin healing. By nightfall, Emily returned to the studio alone. The painting, complete and radiant, seemed to breathe with the life of the estate itself. She traced her fingers over the canvas, feeling the layers of history, memory, and aspiration. Every detail, the house, the trees, the figures, spoke of a journey from grief and betrayal to understanding, courage, and enduring legacy. For Emily, the true inheritance had revealed itself: resilience, love, and the opportunity to shape one's own destiny. As she stood back and admired the work, a deep sense of closure and hope settled within her. The estate, the painting, and the daily lessons from Ryan were more than memories. They were tools for building the future. Lily, by her side, was no longer merely a daughter in need of guidance. She was a young woman ready to inherit wisdom, responsibility, and the courage to lead. Emily finally turned to the window, gazing at the vast expanse of the estate bathed in moonlight. Every shadow, every highlight of the orchards and gardens told a story of perseverance and love. She understood profoundly that Ryan's legacy was not confined to wealth or property. It lived in their hearts, in the lessons of resilience and empathy, and in the freedom to pursue passion and purpose. With a deep, steadying breath, Emily whispered to herself, "This is our inheritance, our story, and it will live on." Lily, standing close, mirrored her mother's determination, a quiet promise passing between them. The Harper estate, once a site of conflict and uncertainty, now symbolized hope, continuity, and the enduring power of family. As the stars emerged, casting a serene glow over the land, Emily felt a profound sense of fulfillment. The past, with all its trials and shadows, had shaped a present of opportunity, and the future stretched before them, bright, expansive, and filled with promise. In that moment, Emily Harper realized she had become more than a caretaker of land and wealth. She had become a steward of wisdom, a beacon of resilience, and a living testament to turning sorrow into strength. The painting on the great room wall, depicting past, present, and future, was not just art. It was the embodiment of a legacy that would endure far beyond her years. And as she looked at Lily, who would carry forward these lessons, Emily knew with clarity the Harper legacy was alive, ever evolving, and eternal. The autumn wind swept through the streets of Brooksville, carrying with it a chill that seemed to mirror Emily Harper's mood. The sky, a blanket of dull gray, pressed down on the city as if mourning with her. In the Harper family home, silence hung heavier than the fog outside, each corner whispering memories of her late husband, Ryan. Yet it was the absence of another presence that weighed most. The emptiness left by her brother, Ryan, whose death had shattered everything she thought she knew about family and loyalty. Emily Harper, 42, a literature and art professor with a slender, poised frame, had always been the calm center of the Harper family. Her brown hair, streaked now with hints of premature silver, framed a face that carried both intelligence and a quiet warmth. She had the eyes of someone who read more than words. She read people, intentions, and emotions. That skill, honed over years of teaching and analyzing literature, now served her poorly as grief clouded her clarity. Since the news of Ryan's accident 3 days ago, she had wandered the halls like a ghost, reliving fragments of moments that no longer belonged to her. Lily, her 17-year-old daughter, entered the study with the soft padding of sneakers on hardwood floors. She was tall for her age, lean, with her mother's sharp brown eyes and her father's untamed dark hair. Despite her youth, she carried an old soul's weight, the silent gravity of someone whose world had been upended. Lily's closeness to Ryan had been unshakable. He had nurtured her curiosity, encouraged her love of puzzles, and left her a repository of memories she now clung to like a lifeline. Seeing her mother hunched over the fireplace, Emily felt a pang of guilt. Her daughter needed guidance, but she felt herself adrift, too enmeshed in sorrow to provide it. Jake Harper, the youngest of the Harper siblings, had arrived early that morning. At 38, he was tall and athletic, with a square jaw softened by a perpetually thoughtful expression. His hazel eyes, often warm and persuasive, now carried a trace of unease. Or was it calculation? Emily had known Jake her entire life, their sibling bond once strong and uncomplicated, but the years had layered complexities over simplicity. His short-cropped hair had begun to gray at the temples, giving him an air of premature gravitas. He moved with careful deliberation, his tall frame always consciously filling the space around him, as though he wished to remind others of his presence. To Emily, every word he spoke, every gentle touch, now felt like a calculated move in a game whose rules she didn't fully understand. "Mom," Lily said quietly, breaking the heavy silence. I don't know how to even begin to deal with Dad being gone." Her voice trembled slightly and she bit her lower lip, a gesture she had inherited from her father. Emily turned to her, managing a small, fragile smile. "I know, darling," Emily whispered. She closed her eyes for a moment, letting the memory of Ryan's laughter fill her mind. "I know. Me neither. but we have to keep going. For each other. Jake moved closer, placing a hand on Emily's shoulder. His touch was warm, familiar, almost comforting. Emily, you don't have to carry this alone, he said, his voice low, measured. There was a gentleness in his tone, a hint of the caring brother she had always known, yet her instincts, sharpened by years of reading human behavior, tingled with doubt. Something about the steadiness of his gaze seemed rehearsed, precise. Emily felt a mixture of gratitude and suspicion swirl inside her. She wanted to trust him, to lean on him, but a gnawing uncertainty had begun to take root. Ryan's death had left not only grief, but also a sense of disarray, a loose thread in the tapestry of their family. And Jake's sudden attentiveness, the careful timing of his visits, the quiet insistence on helping manage the estate, it all seemed too convenient. I appreciate it, Jake, she said softly, but I need to process things my way too. She didn't elaborate. She couldn't, not yet. Her mind kept returning to conversations with Ryan over the years, fleeting comments about family finances, his frustration over discrepancies in shared accounts, and the vague, cryptic warnings about trust. At the time, she had dismissed them. Now, in the stark aftermath of his absence, those words gnawed at her conscience. Lily, sensing the tension, shifted uneasily. Mom, do you think maybe Uncle Jake will help us get through this? Her tone was hopeful, innocent, trusting, the sort of trust that made Emily's chest ache. Emily looked at her daughter, at her soft features framed by her father's dark hair, and felt the full weight of responsibility press down. She needed to protect Lily not just from the world, but from the manipulations that might arise from those closest to them. Her eyes flicked to Jake, watching him straighten, his broad shoulders tense just slightly. He smiled, easy, reassuring. Yet Emily couldn't shake the feeling that behind that smile, there was something she had yet to uncover. Over the next hour, they sat together in the study, the dim light of late afternoon casting long shadows across the room. Emily's thoughts wandered through a labyrinth of fear, suspicion, and grief. She recalled subtle inconsistencies, bills that didn't match records, offhand comments that hinted at hidden actions, and the way Jake's eyes lingered on family documents just a little too long. She didn't want to believe he could be deceitful, but the seeds of doubt had already sprouted. Her mind raced. Could he have had a hand in Ryan's financial troubles? Was his sudden interest in the estate purely out of sibling concern? Or were there other motivations? Emily's inner monologue became a relentless tide. She needed to understand, to uncover the truth before grief clouded her judgment. She knew Ryan would have wanted her to be vigilant, to protect Lily, and to ensure that the Harper legacy, everything her brother had cared for, remained intact. As twilight descended, Emily felt a growing resolve. She could not afford to be naive, no matter how much her heart longed for comfort. She looked at Lily, sitting quietly with her arms wrapped around her knees, and felt the stirrings of a protective fierceness she hadn't known she possessed. The house, filled with memories of happier times, now felt like a battleground, each shadow whispering secrets she needed to uncover. For the first time since Ryan's accident, Emily Harper made a silent vow. She would protect her daughter, uncover the truth about Jake's intentions, and reclaim the sense of safety and certainty that had been ripped away. She would navigate this maze, using the intellect, intuition, and strength that Ryan had always believed she possessed. And as she watched Jake leave for the evening, promising to return tomorrow, Emily couldn't shake the chill that had settled in her bones. She knew the storm was only beginning. Outside, The wind picked up, rattling the window panes and carrying with it a sense of foreboding. Inside, Emily Harper sat back, letting the weight of grief and suspicion mingle, aware that the life she had once known was gone, and that she was standing on the precipice of a long, uncertain journey. But for Lily, for herself, and in memory of Ryan, she would endure, and she would fight. Rain drummed softly against the windows of the Harper family estate, a rhythmic reminder of the gloom that seemed to linger over Emily Harper's life. The stormy October afternoon painted the world in shades of gray, yet inside the house, tension and unease were more palpable than the weather outside. Emily sat at her desk, her fingers absently tracing the edge of an envelope she had found hidden among Ryan's old files. The neat, unfamiliar handwriting on it made her heart skip. It was a note from an old lawyer her husband trusted, a man who had seen the family's dealings in ways Emily hadn't. Emily Harper, 42, thin and poised, brown hair streaked with silver, framing her intelligent, expressive face, felt the familiar ache of grief mingled now with suspicion. The past days had been a whirlwind. Ryan's funeral, the quiet yet tense visits from her brother Jake, and now an unsettling feeling that the very family she relied on might not be as trustworthy as she believed. Her brown eyes, sharp and searching, scanned the envelope again. She could feel Lily, her 17-year-old daughter, nearby in the conservatory, tending the orchids Ryan had loved. Lily's presence, a source of comfort and connection, was a reminder that someone depended on her vigilance. The knock at the door was soft but insistent. "Mom, it's me," Lily's voice called. She entered carrying a tray with tea, her posture alert, the shadow of concern etched on her youthful face. "You've been in here for hours," she said, eyes flicking to the envelope. "Something's different, isn't it?" Emily offered a wan smile, but her chest tightened. "I think I might finally have some answers," she murmured, though her mind raced with unease. She was not yet ready to tell Lily everything. Jake Harper, 38, tall, athletic, with hazel eyes that now seemed just a little too calculating, entered shortly after, accompanied by Megan, his wife. Megan, 34, was the kind of woman whose charm was almost weaponized. Her long blonde hair fell in soft waves, framing a fair-skinned face with high cheekbones and a poised, serene expression. But Emily's instincts, sharpened over years of reading people, detected a subtle coldness in Megan's gaze, a strategic assessment behind her smile. Megan had a soft voice, almost honeyed, yet every word carried weight, as if carefully measured. "Emily," Jake began smoothly, his tall frame leaning slightly against the doorway. "We thought you might want company. It's been a rough week." His voice was comforting, but Emily's intuition pricked. There was something rehearsed about his concern, a careful pacing in his movements. Megan stepped closer, placing a hand lightly on Jake's arm. "We want to help," she added, her tone lilting, pleasant, but Emily noticed the flicker of impatience in her eyes when they scanned the room. Emily's gaze hardened, steadying herself. "I appreciate that," she said slowly. "But lately, I've been finding things I don't quite understand, financial discrepancies, things that involve the family savings, money that Ryan worked hard to accumulate." She held their gaze, letting the weight of the accusation settle. Jake shifted uncomfortably, and Megan's composure tightened. "What do you mean?" Jake asked, his voice smooth, but with an undercurrent of defensiveness. Emily's heart beat faster, a mixture of fear and determination filling her chest. "I mean," she continued, "that some of that money may have been moved without my knowledge, or used for purposes Ryan would not have approved." Her words were measured but loaded, each one landing like a stone in a quiet pond. Megan's lips pressed into a thin line, her serene demeanor cracking just enough to reveal impatience. "Emily, you're imagining things," she said softly, though the slight sharpness in her voice betrayed the pretense. Emily felt her pulse quicken. Something in Megan's posture, the subtle tightening of her jaw, the way her hands gripped Jake's arm, spoke volumes. They were hiding something, and she intended to find out what. Later that evening, after Jake and Megan had left, Emily sat alone with the envelope from Ryan's old lawyer. The handwriting was precise, careful, the type of meticulous attention Ryan had appreciated. She opened it to reveal instructions leading to a hidden folder in the house's library, a folder containing legal documents, transaction records, and letters from decades ago. It seemed that Ryan, even before his death, had suspected the undercurrents swirling around his family. The papers revealed subtle manipulations of inheritance, off-the-record dealings, and evidence of previous attempts by his siblings to gain control of assets that did not belong to them. Emily felt a chill. The revelations were staggering. Jake and Megan's involvement in redirecting funds from her and Ryan's savings, combined with documents implicating Ryan's other siblings in unethical or possibly illegal actions decades ago, painted a picture she could scarcely have imagined. Every instinct she had honed over years of teaching, analyzing texts, and understanding human behavior now screamed at her to act with precision, to not allow grief to cloud judgment. She pulled out a sheet of paper and began cataloging the documents, her eyes scanning each line with meticulous care. There were letters from her husband's lawyer, warning of potential manipulation by Jake and Megan, bank statements showing suspicious transfers, and notarized documents Ryan had prepared but never executed. Her mind raced through the implications. If mishandled, these discoveries could destroy family relationships entirely. But if handled strategically, they could safeguard both her and Lily's future. The storm outside intensified, rain streaking the windows as Emily's determination solidified. She would need guidance, someone trusted, to help navigate the legal labyrinth Ryan had foreseen. She picked up her phone and dialed the number Ryan had given her, a man named Mr. Whitaker, a seasoned attorney with decades of experience, known for his discretion and strategic acumen. "Emily," Whitaker's voice was calm but firm over the line, carrying the weight of decades in the legal world. "I've been expecting your call. Ryan mentioned you might need assistance with family matters." Emily exhaled, a mixture of relief and tension releasing at the recognition that she now had an ally. I have found documents," she said carefully. "Documents Ryan left for me, about past financial manipulations and about recent discrepancies. I need to understand them, and I need advice on how to proceed without tipping off anyone prematurely." Whitaker's response was measured. "Emily, it sounds like you are walking into a complex web. We need to proceed carefully. I will come by tomorrow to review everything in person. Until then, secure the documents and trust no one with this information. Not Jake, not Megan, not Lily yet. We must move strategically." Hanging up, Emily felt a mixture of empowerment and trepidation. The storm outside mirrored the storm within her mind, chaotic yet alive with potential. She walked to the conservatory, where Lily was arranging orchids, and knelt beside her. "Sweetheart, I found some things," she began gently, her hand brushing a stray lock of hair from Lily's face. "Things about family finances, things that your father knew but didn't have the chance to fully explain." Lily looked up, eyes wide but trusting, her youthful curiosity brimming with questions. Emily swallowed hard, forcing herself to remain calm. "We'll figure it out," she said firmly. "We have to be careful, but we'll protect what's ours." Your father prepared me for this in ways I didn't realize until now. I need time to understand everything myself." Lily nodded, sensing her mother's resolve, and for the first time in days, Emily felt a flicker of control over a life that had seemed to unravel so quickly. Night settled over Brooksville, the rain tapering to a soft drizzle. Emily returned to her study, placing the documents in a locked drawer. Her mind replayed Jake and Megan's earlier behavior, the subtle signals of deception she had noticed but not confronted, and the weight of the truth she now carried. There was fear, yes, but also a growing determination. She would uncover the full extent of the deception, expose what had been hidden, and ensure that Ryan's legacy and her daughter's security remained intact. The first seeds of a plan were forming, grounded in patience, observation, and the strategic mind Ryan had always believed she possessed. In the quiet of the Harper estate, Emily Harper sat at her desk, aware that the battle for her family's integrity was just beginning. And in the flickering lamplight, she felt the sharp clarity of purpose. The secrets would be revealed, justice would be sought, and nothing, neither grief nor betrayal, would prevent her from protecting those she loved. Fog clung stubbornly to the edges of Brooksville as a chill wind whispered through the towering oaks surrounding the Harper estate. The autumn evening pressed a muted gray over the grounds, a perfect reflection of Emily Harper's restless mind. She moved carefully down the corridor toward the library, her footsteps muffled by the thick carpet. The envelope from Mr. Whitaker sat in her hand, detailing instructions Ryan had left long before his unexpected death. A map to a hidden room he called his war room, a place of secrets and strategy. Emily Harper, still in her early 40s, slender and upright, brown hair streaked with silver, had eyes that could pierce through pretense. Her heart beat fast as she reached the wall behind the library's grand bookshelves, tracing the surface for hidden mechanisms Ryan had described in the letter. Lily, 17, fair-skinned with dark brown hair falling in soft waves, followed quietly, her observant eyes reflecting concern and anticipation. With a subtle click, the shelf swung inward, revealing a narrow passageway illuminated by dim, recessed lighting. The scent of old wood and paper mingled in the air. Emily swallowed, a mix of anxiety and reverence flooding her. This was Ryan's sanctuary, the place where he had plotted, recorded, and preserved the truth of their family's legacy. The narrow space opened into a large room filled with meticulously organized shelves, filing cabinets, and a bank of monitors and storage drives, each labeled in Ryan's precise handwriting. The air was thick with the weight of secrets. Emily's gaze swept across the room. Hundreds of files lined the shelves, each labeled with dates and categories: family finances, investments, correspondence. Her breath caught when she noticed several folders marked with the names of her husband's siblings, including Jake and Megan. The handwriting on the files was unmistakably Ryan's. Exacting, deliberate, with the precision of a man who had anticipated every eventuality. Lily stepped closer to a table in the center of the room, where several hard drives were stacked neatly. "Mom, look at all these," she said softly, her voice trembling with awe. The room was more than a repository. It was a testament to Ryan's foresight, an archive created to protect his family even after he was gone. Emily felt tears prick at the corners of her eyes. The magnitude of Ryan's planning was staggering. He had anticipated betrayal, greed, and confusion, and yet he had prepared a shield strong enough to safeguard both her and Lily. Emily approached a monitor, brushing dust from its surface. When she powered it on, the screen flickered to life, displaying a video of Ryan, looking vibrant despite the years since his diagnosis. His eyes held the calm authority she remembered, his brown hair slightly tousled. "Emily," he said in his familiar, measured tone. "If you are seeing this, you are ready to step into the role I hoped you would embrace. This room, these documents, these videos, they are not just records, they are tools. Tools to protect, to understand, and to act." She paused the video, her mind racing. She had always admired Ryan's intellect, his ability to see several steps ahead, but seeing it manifested in this hidden room brought a lump to her throat. This was more than planning. It was an act of love, a strategic vision born from a deep understanding of both the fragility and resilience of family ties. Returning her attention to the documents, Emily opened a folder labeled Financial Irregularities, Harper Siblings. Each sheet revealed discrepancies, forged signatures, unauthorized transfers, off-record business dealings. Her pulse quickened as she realized the extent of manipulation she had only suspected. Every move Jake and Megan had made was documented here, paired with Ryan's notes, analysis, and suggested responses. It was overwhelming, yet empowering. "Mom," Lily whispered, pointing to a section of Ryan's notes. He even left instructions on how to confront them legally without tipping them off. He thought of everything. Emily nodded, swallowing her emotions. "He did," she murmured. Her mind flashed back to the stormy night she had discovered the envelope. Ryan had anticipated that grief could cloud judgment, that even the most intelligent mind could be misled by emotion. This room was a safeguard, a carefully constructed environment to ensure rational action. Among the rows of files were several binders marked video logs. Emily inserted a drive and watched as Ryan appeared on the screen, recording notes to be viewed only in sequence. Each video addressed specific aspects of the family estate, financial strategies, and even personal reflections intended to prepare her emotionally for the battles ahead. The sheer number of recordings, hundreds of them, was staggering. He had created a roadmap for her and Lily, a guide to understanding not just the tangible assets, but the motivations, weaknesses, and tendencies of everyone involved. One folder caught Emily's attention. Megan Harper, Strategic Overview. She opened it carefully. Inside were detailed observations of Megan's behavior, her manipulative tendencies, her persuasive skills, and even psychological analysis drawn from years of interaction. Ryan had been methodical, noting Megan's strengths and potential vulnerabilities, as if preparing a blueprint for navigating the complicated web of trust and deception. Emily felt a chill. Ryan had known exactly what she and Lily would face, had foreseen the interplay of personalities, and had armed them accordingly. Jake's name appeared on another folder, this one marked Caution, Family Negotiations. Emily read his dossier carefully. His charisma, his pattern of deception, his tendency to employ both guilt and feigned concern as tools for manipulation. Notes detailed previous attempts at financial exploitation and potential strategies for future control. Ryan had not only documented these tendencies, but had proposed countermeasures. How to maintain appearances while quietly asserting legal and financial authority. Emily sat back in the chair, absorbing the weight of what Ryan had left behind. This room was more than a collection of documents. It was a lifeline. He had foreseen betrayal and greed, and in doing so, had ensured that she and Lily would never be powerless. Her mind raced with the possibilities, the strategies she could employ, and the reassurance that for the first time since Ryan's death, she felt some measure of control. "This is incredible," Lily said softly, moving beside her mother. "He thought of everything, even how to make sure we stay safe." Emily put an arm around her daughter, drawing her close. He did, she repeated, feeling both the ache of loss and the profound comfort of his foresight. And now, we must be vigilant. Every move, every word. We have to proceed carefully. Hours passed as they explored the room, cataloging files, organizing video drives, and making notes on strategy. Each discovery was both shocking and illuminating, revealing layers of Ryan's careful planning that they had only begun to comprehend. Emily felt a surge of gratitude and determination. Ryan had given them the tools to defend their family and legacy, and now it was their responsibility to use them wisely. By the time night fully enveloped the estate, Emily and Lily had established a preliminary system, cataloging all financial records, identifying actionable items, and prioritizing the video instructions that would provide insight into family dynamics. They worked in quiet determination, the room filled with the soft hum of the monitors and the occasional scratch of pen on paper. As they prepared to leave the war room, Emily paused at the doorway, looking back at the rows of meticulously organized files. "Ryan, you've done more than leave us a house," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "You've left us a path forward, a way to protect what matters and honor your memory." Lily, standing beside her, nodded silently, understanding the magnitude of what they had discovered. In the stillness of the Harper estate, the war room remained a sanctuary of foresight and strategy, a testament to Ryan's love and intelligence. Emily knew that the battles ahead would require courage, patience, and unwavering vigilance. But for the first time since Ryan's death, she felt prepared. They had the evidence, the strategy, and the knowledge to face the challenges posed by Jake, Megan, and any other threats to their family. And in that preparation, they found not just security, but the promise of justice and the preservation of Ryan's legacy.